Welcome to another episode of Dad Up, everyone. Thank you guys very much for joining me. I have been fired up for this episode because I have a very, very close friend of mine on the show. And even though we have never met, I feel like he's one of my best friends. He's one of my board members on my team. And, he has been going through some things this last year that I thought it's important for him to discuss and talk about for any parents out there that might be feeling the same kind of thing or going through something similar. He has a lot of wisdom and he's going to share it all and we're going to talk about it. So I want to welcome, how you doing, Jeff? Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me, buddy. This is going to be a fun conversation, like every time we chit chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Jeff has been on my show before, but in the past when I had him on my show, and you can go check out that episode, but in the past we talked a lot about his parenting and how he parents his kids and his family and all that stuff. However, I wanted to have him on again, as I said, because he's been battling through something over the last almost year, and he's really made a shift in his life that has not only dramatically improved and enhanced his own life and his health, but has also impacted his family in a positive way. And I thought it would be a good idea for him to talk about it. So, Jeff, I just want to dive right in because you have an amazing podcast. You're an author, you're a speaker, you're a dad, you're a husband, you're a business owner. You have several businesses that you manage, and through all that, you're hit with this obstacle, this challenge that has been placed directly in front of you. Right before that, though, I want to talk about just kind of recap who you are and what you do and all the things that you're a part of. Just recap that in about 2 or 3 sentences to kind of bring my audience in, and then we'll talk about your challenge.
Oh, God, I think dad life is something that I cherish very closely. I'm the dad that my 15-year-old son and my 17-year-old daughter want to hang out with all the time. Still, they get excited to hang out with. My daughter wakes up in the morning, like, "Hey, Dad, we're gonna do anything today? Let's go for a bike ride." So whatever I've done, somehow if it's worked out because my kids at teen life still want to hang out with me and still want to do stuff with me. So I'm quote unquote still the cool dad, and everything else is just part of it, right? I mean, I've been married for we're going into this September 20 years, happily married still, and I've been an entrepreneur for 27 years, and I love giving back. I love helping young entrepreneurs. I love seeing individuals like yourself strive and succeed in life, and I love using my life experiences, which has been ups and downs. I mean, you win some, you lose some, and to spread the word and help others in that process as well, right? So that's me in a nutshell right now.
Yeah, absolutely. You share a lot about your family, your personal life on social media. And as I said
Yeah.
before, you and I have never met, but I feel like we're neighbors because you share so much about who you are, not only as a person, but as a business owner and a father and a husband. So I think it's remarkable. It's very rare that you have teenage kids that still
Yeah.
think you're the cool dad and want to hang out with you. Usually they're wanting to do their own thing. And yeah, it's the last thing I want to do is hang out with mom and dad, but you still have that impact on them. And that's just remarkable. And it's a testament to the character and the person that you really are and the person that you want to be for your kids. So that's awesome. And I'm honored and proud to be a friend and call you a friend. So thank you for
Ditto,
that. And thank you for
ditto,
the
ditto, ditto back, buddy.
all right. So I want to dive right in because there may be parents out there that may be dealing with this themselves. They may have a relative that may be dealing with this, maybe a parent, or maybe their child is going through something similar. So let's dive right into how this all started. And I say this because I want you to share it, but let's start from the beginning, how this happened and kind of the story that you've gotten from it.
Yeah, the big C word. A lot of people don't
Yeah.
even want to say it is cancer, right? It's something that when it doesn't affect you, you see it around you, you hear about it. Everybody has been touched. I don't care who you are, you've been touched, whether it's a family member, a friend of a friend, somebody that's been affected or touched by cancer. But reality is, we live our every single day lives and never think it's going to affect us. I had zero family history, and I mean zero cousins, uncles, parents. I mean, European bloodline. We have grandparents that lived into their 90s. Like, you don't hear cancer in my bloodline. And after the fact that I did get it, I even did genetic testing. I did full genetic testing, and the BRCA, like all the signs or the signals in your genes that would lead to cancer, I don't even have those. So at 45 years old, to be diagnosed with cancer was the last thing I would ever think would happen to me. I didn't smoke, didn't drink, thought it was healthy, worked out 5 days a week. When I look at my terrain now over the last couple of years, there was things that I could have made changes that probably would have slowed the process or eliminated the process of me developing cancer. But you live your life, right? You think you're doing well, and I was doing. I would say in public eye a lot better than most people when it comes to taking care of my health. And I started seeing blood in my stool. It started with blood in my stool for 2 months, 3 months, but it was very sporadic. So I was like, I didn't pay attention. I'm a guy. I'm healthy. Don't worry about it. After a few months, I was like, let me get a reach to hold my doctors. And I do my annuals. I do an annual full physical every year, and reached out to my doctor. It wasn't even time for my annual. I said, listen, this is a situation. Could I come in? Let me do some blood work, let me do some urine work. Let's do everything. So we did a full panel, almost like 6 vials of blood, checked every cancer marker, checked every type of inflammation markers in my body, checked everything, urine test, everything came back perfect. Not
Really?
one sign through blood work. And I looked at my doctor, said, like, what's the cause of this? Like, how am I having blood in my stool? And he's like, when you wipe, do you see blood or just in your stool? I said, just in my stool. He goes, you probably have internal hemorrhoids. I go, it's very common. Don't stress about it. Well, it'll solve itself. That was his words to me. This is my family's issue, right? So I was just like, okay. So went home. One day passed, day and a half passed. I looked at my wife, and it's like intuition kicked in. And man, anybody out there, trust your intuition. Intuition kicked in. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do a colonoscopy. And I was like, called him back up. I said, listen, I want to do one. He was like, you're young, Jeff. You're healthy. We did all our blood work. You don't have nothing. He said, okay, let's just do it. So this was November 15th. During the pandemic in Canada, everything's been so backlogged. So the earliest that the requisition he sent, the earliest I could get in was in February. So you're looking at December, January, February, almost 4 months later. And I was like, I'm not waiting that 4 months. And my entrepreneurial kicked in, and I just said, I called him back. I said, listen, are you okay with me calling up places? He says, yeah, go ahead. And I literally just got on the phone the next day and started calling. I made like over 20 different calls to any place that would do them, even I had to drive out for an hour, 2 hours. I got a call back the next day saying, hey, we got a cancellation for next week at the hospital. And I said, let's do it. They gave me all the preps. I had never done a colonoscopy before I was 45. And in Ontario, the standard is 50 on to do that. So I went to do it, did all the prep, went under, wake up to the doctor looking at me and giving me the news that he found a tumor in my rectum. And he said it didn't look good. And that's when my life changed. I mean, I had to go home that day, sit down with my wife and my two teenage kids, and break the news to them. And looking at my daughter and being like, I gotta walk her down the aisle. Like, I'm 45. Like, this is not happening to me. This is something that happens to other people. This is not happening. The denial, the anxiety, everything kicked in. But I realized very quickly. I woke up the next day. I didn't sleep well that night. I woke up the next day, and I said to myself, I go, I have to do everything I can, control the controllables. I've always had that in my mind, control the controls. I have to do everything in my power to give myself the best opportunity to beat this. And that's when everything started. The journey started. I literally the next morning went to the grocery store. I changed my diet. I researched everything I could, and I realized a keto Mediterranean diet is your best option for cancer. And I literally the next day changed my diet, started new supplements. Within a week, I used every contact I had and every research I had, and within the first week, I had read 2 books already on cancer and the metabolic effect of cancer on your body. And I was already taking 16, 17 supplements. I changed my diet. I changed my lifestyle. I started sauning, going to sauna. I really focused on fasting 16 to 18 hours a day. Like I started doing everything I possibly could to give myself the best opportunity. But then I realized that our medical system, we're just a number in our medical system. And if you are not a voice or an advocate for yourself, and you just sit back and listen to what the doctors tell you what to do, you're just a number. You're just put on an assembly line. And I went on a mission. And what most people take 3 to 4 months to do, I did. I got done within the first 30 days. And that was because I was so persistent. And I want anybody out there that's going through this or knows a family member that's going through this to understand you're just a number in the medical system. Unless you're private care, but if you're just in Canada, especially with OHIP, you have to be an advocate for yourself. And I would call, and the reception would pick up, and I would be like, I just want to give you the heads up. This is who I am. I'm going to be the most annoying person you're ever going to meet. I'm going to be calling you every single day till you book this appointment. And they'd be laughing like, and I'm like, no, I'm serious. And I would call them 10, 15 times a day if I had to, leave 15 messages until they would book the appointment. And within the first 30 days, I had booked my oncologist, I had booked my surgeon, I had booked my radiologist, and I was still hesitant with radiation, but I booked my radiologist. I had done a scope, I had done an MRI, and I'd done a CT scan, all within the first 30 days, because I would not take no for an answer. And I knew time is not something you want to play with when you get diagnosed with cancer. So everything was done within 30 days. I decided to go the route of radiation because I was young, and because of one option again, because they say, quote unquote, you're young, you're healthy. They had a different option of radiation, which is more of a direct radiation, which would be 5 days instead of the normal radiation. Anybody get diagnosed with cancer is 6 weeks, 30 sessions. They said, we're going to hammer it for 5 days, really intense. It took a toll on my body. That destroyed my body for about 2 weeks after the radiation. But I did the 5-day radiation, and then we booked the surgery in. We let our bodies recover. We booked a surgery in. And because from the day of the surgery, which was February 16th, from November 24th, when I started the process, to February 16th, everything I did to take care of myself, the supplements, the diet, the lifestyle, the meditation, the saunas, the walks, the breathing technique, everything I did led up to that moment where my body was so prepared for the surgery. The tumor had shrunk almost 50 to 60% through the whole process, which is incredible. And I was going into a surgery thinking I was going to come out with a colonoscopy bag, and I would have it for 6 months to a year. Because the surgeon said, Jeff, you're young, you're strong, you're healthy. We could go in and take the tumor out, or we could go in and clean you right out. And hopefully this will be a one-time thing and you'll never have to deal with it. Cancer is something that you're always scared is going to come back. But he was pretty certain that because it hadn't spread yet, that we could really focus on it. So he decided to do a full surgery with us. We agreed on it. We removed 60% of my rectum. We removed 23 lymph nodes, which is a massive surgery. So I went into surgery, 2 surgeons, 9 people in the operating room, 4.5 hour surgery. Because I took such good care of myself prior to that, the surgery went down to 3 hours, no colonoscopy bag. And once I was done surgery, it was just like this instant relief. Like, I got this out of me. They got it all out of me. Everything's to be okay. And I remember it was a Thursday afternoon. I finally got up to my room in the hospital from the surgery downstairs. And the surgeon came up and walked in the room. And I just want people to understand how impactful your mindset is and how strong your mind can control everything. And it was one of those things where I was so focused on getting home and getting strong and getting healthy. And it was just like closing this chapter, moving on to the next chapter. The surgeon looked at me, and I said, I go, Doc, what do I need to get out of this hospital? He goes, Jeff, you're going to be here for 5 or 6 days. That was a pretty big surgery. And I said, what do I need to get out of this hospital? And he starts laughing at me. This is maybe 3-4 hours after my surgery. He says, you need to get your catheter out. You need to be urinating on your own. You need to get your IV out. You need to be drinking on your own. You need to pass gas. You need to be able to walk, and you need to pass stool. I said, okay. And this is where my mindset at this point was, Bryan. This was 1:45 on a Thursday. The doctor came back to do his rounds the next day at 10:30 a.m. before the visitors are allowed at 10:30. He came by on the Friday. He walked in and I said, Doc, I got my catheter out. I'm urinating on my own. I got my IV out. I'm drinking my own. I already did 2 laps in the hallway and I already passed gas. And he looked at me like I was on drugs. He was like, are you serious? And I refused to take morphine. I refused to take drugs. I took one Tylenol 2 over the counter that evening. And he just starts laughing at me. The next day he came back to do his rounds Saturday morning. I had gone to pass stool that night. I had the bed made, my bag packed, and I said, I want to go home. I was home in less than 48 hours after the surgery. And it's because I prepared myself. And it's so incredible how strong our bodies are, how our bodies react to how we take care of them. And I realized that, and I realized this is not something for 3 months, 4 months, 5. This is going to be a lifestyle. This is going to be what I'm going to have to do the rest of my life to thrive, not to be a survivor, but to thrive through cancer. And that was where I was. And through the whole process, I think it's very important, especially as a dad of podcast, is I didn't want this to affect my family. I didn't want what I was going through to affect, even though it has and it would, but I didn't want it to. So me and my wife made it very clear that we would not be talking in front of the kids about this. I wouldn't be talking about my treatments. I wouldn't be talking every time I went to the doctor. Like in 45 years of my life, Bryan, I had been to the hospital maybe 3, 4 times. I've never spent a night in the hospital. I've never had a surgery in my life. And since November 23rd till today, I keep all my hospital bracelets. I actually saved every single one. I've been to the hospital now 33 times.
Mm.
And through the whole process, my kids' lifestyle never changed. They still continued in their sports. They continued in their stuff. They continued going to the gym with me. Everything we did before never changed. The only thing that changed and they saw change was daddy was making his own meals. Daddy was cooking his own ways. And I slowly started introducing them to my new lifestyle of foods and we would make into family meals. And they would start understanding certain supplements to take. And I made them, I tried to explain as much as I could so they understand what was happening, but we never sat there and allowed my situation to change their pattern of life, their process of life. So it would eliminate the stress on them. And I kept at home as much of as positive attitude as possible. We kept doing things, going places. So through the whole process, I made sure that, and I understood that my family and my environment at home would have a huge impact on even myself. So I wanted to make it as perfect as home as possible that would help my healing as well through the whole process. So going now, we're at roughly the 8 month mark through this whole process, and I'm thriving. I'm 46 now, Bryan, and and I would say probably the best shape I've been in 25 years. I might look thin, but I got a 6 pack. I feel incredible. I sleep 8 hours a night. I'm going to the bathroom on a more than regular basis, which is great because my body is so healthy. My supplements haven't changed. I haven't had a processed food. I haven't had a drop of sugar in my body since November 23rd. And it's just an impact of how we could control everything. Once I was done the surgery, the first thing the doctors called me and my oncologist was, "Hey, we got to get you on chemo." And by that time I had done my research. I had read 6 books. I had reached out to through my podcast. I've built a great network of doctors and stuff. And I had reached out to everybody. And I gave myself as much knowledge as possible about treatments. And I realized I didn't want to poison my body. And I realized that once the cancer was out of me, the problem is with our medical systems. And I want most people, anybody who's listening to this podcast that's, like I said, been affected, has a family member, or in the future, knock on wood, is affected by themselves with cancer, is to understand that our medical systems and I would say North American medicine in general is they want to treat, mask the issue. They did never look at the root cause of the issue. So what happens is they go in there and they say, okay, science says we got to kill all your cells, and they kill the good, they kill the bad, and give you a fresh start. And they don't realize by hitting yourself with so much chemo and so much radiation that your body is never the same. Your body will never be the same. It'll never be able to fight the same way. It'll never be able to strive the same way. Instead of saying, hey, let's look at our root cause. And I'm sure there are plenty of doctors nowadays that are starting to understand that. But I would say most, if not a majority of our medical system, still, quote unquote, want to go by science. What I mean by science is they look at just targeting the issue and masking it with poison. And they don't look at it and say, when I looked at my family, when I looked at an oncologist and I said, hey, what about diet? What about lifestyle? Jeff, there's no science, there's no proof behind that. The only thing that we have proof is if you do this, this will give you a better chance of this much percent to live longer. They don't look at the root cause. And I went out of my way to figure out the root cause of what I did over the process of the last 3 to 5 years that could have caused this. And diet, lifestyle, stress. When you look at colorectal cancer, the three things that are going to target it, and I want to talk about colorectal cancer and how it's going to, how quickly it's growing. But the things that target it is lack of sleep, stress, and consumption of food. I would say 70, 80%, maybe even higher. We're constantly eating processed food all day. We're constantly eating shit that's made in a factory. We're constantly eating, when you look at it, red meats that are overcooked, that release all the carnogen. You're looking at processed meats, which is a trigger for colorectal cancers. You're looking at stress, our lifestyles. We're constantly going, stressed out. And stress, once again, as we were talking before we got on the podcast, lack of sleep. Stress it works hand in hand with lack of sleep. So when I look at my terrain over the last 2.5, 3 years, 4 years, COVID affected my businesses drastically, especially in Canada. So stress was a massive part of my lifestyle. My father passed away. For 6 months. I was going to almost a cemetery every single day. I was stressed. I was sleeping an hour, 2 hours a night. And then I went on a carnivore diet, which is a no-no for cancer, and especially colorectal cancer. I went on a carnivore diet for about 8 or 9 months. And through the process, with the carnivore diet, if you're eating good, grass-fed, healthy meats and beefs and stuff, I'm sure it would take a less effect. But I was in that mindset where I needed protein. I'd go home and I would have 8 hot dogs. I would have jump 5 burgers on the burger with a piece of fruit. If I was driving and had a long drive, I'd stop at the gas station and get 5 pepperoni sticks, because my mindset was, gotta have protein, gotta have protein, gotta have protein. So you add all these factors in, I'm sure they had a huge impact in what happened to me. So I really focused on the root. I focused on cleansing my body and starting kind of like rebuilding my body and my health through meditation, through de-stressing, through detoxing my body, through saunas, through diet, through supplementation. And there's so many incredible supplements that really help they're antioxidants that help build your immune system, that keep your cells clean. Fasting is a huge part of it as well. Part of my diet. Your body has 2 impacts. It's either healing itself or it's digesting food. And through the healing process, your body, your cells, bad cells in you, the ones that have gone rogue, if you're fasting, your body is trying to get rid of those cells, because those cells are so hungry, trying to eat all the time. And if you're fasting, you're giving yourself a way higher opportunity to kill those cells and get your body to get rid of those cells. Mm-hmm. So there's so many factors, and it's just not one factor. So many factors into living a healthy lifestyle and a cancer-free life. And what I want everybody to understand is you don't wait till you get diagnosed. These are all preventative stuff. These are all things that you could do right now to prevent yourself from ever getting that face-to-face conversation with the doctor. Something I wish I did before, and I wish I've never been through this. But now I've been through this. I know what to do. And my goal is, through my lifestyle and through everything I'm doing, is I want to, I not even want to, I'm going to walk my daughter down the aisle. I'm going to see my son's journey. He's got the story. He's got such a beautiful story of where he's been through and where he's going. And I'm going to see him on stage one day, thriving and telling his story to millions of people. I'm going to see him stand on as a pro baseball player somewhere in this world. Like, there's a lot of things I'm looking at, and I'm going to be here to impact. I want to have my 50th wedding anniversary with my wife. We're just about to hit 20, and I'm going to be here for all these things. And it's because I understand what I have to do to prevent myself from getting in this situation again. And then on top of it is regular checkups. Don't be scared to do regular checkups. Okay. Because if I had done a colonoscopy, which is, doctors would have told me I'm crazy to even ask for it. But if I had done colonoscopy at 40 years old, this would have been a polyp in me. This would have been taken out, moved on. Okay, now we really got to focus. It would have been a scare, but that would be it. But because I didn't do a regular colonoscopy, and in Canadian standards, the doctors tell you to do it at 50 if you have no family history. If you have a family history, do it at 45. Canadian Medical Journal tells you you should do your first colonoscopy at 35. And I want people to understand by 2030, in the US, which I'm sure Canada is the same, I'm Canadian, but this is a stat in the US, colorectal cancer is going to be the number one killer of all cancers by 2030. And you know what the age group is, Bryan? 19 to 45. Think about that. It's affecting younger and younger and killing younger and younger generations because it's something that it's undetectable if you don't do a colonoscopy. And I was one of the lucky ones, very, very lucky, because my tumor was low enough that every time I would pass stool, it would, every once in a while, it would just scrape it enough to get a little blood on it. If it was another 2-3 inches higher, it would be mixed into stool. I would have never seen it. By the time I got diagnosed, it would have been too late. So understand that the impact of just doing a colonoscopy, if you have any family history, if there's zero symptoms, like, I mean, zero, if you have any symptoms, if you have any bloating, you're not passing stool properly, you have odd times, you're getting cramps, there's so many signs. Call your doctor, do a colonoscopy. It doesn't matter if you're 30, it doesn't matter if you're 35. It's affecting younger and younger generations every single day. And the problem is when most people find out, it's already been massified. It's already spread. It's already spread into their lymph nodes, it's spread into other areas. So you have to be an advocate for yourself. You have to be an advocate for your health. Cancer is something that's it's going to affect us all. I mean, they're looking at also by 2030 that in North America, 1 out of every 2 males are going to be affected by cancer in their lifetime. 1 out of every 3 females are going to be affected by cancer in their lifetime. Think of those stats. And the crazy part is, these are all preventative. It's diet, environment. I'm at the point where even everywhere I am on a regular basis, my bedroom, my living room, my office, my cottage, I got snake plants everywhere. A simple plant that literally cleanses the air 30 to 35% of the toxins in the air. It's a $30 plant, and it impacts your environment. So there's so many little things you could do. You get home, open up your doors and your windows in your house 15-20 minutes a day. Let your house circulate the air. We have furnaces, we have things. These are all things that are building toxins in your house all single day. We get home, hour a day, summer, winter, doesn't matter. We open up the windows for half an hour to an hour every single day just to let the air, let the house circulate. These are little things you do that have a huge impact. Don't sleep with your phone next to you. Since I found out my phone's out of the room every single night, I sleep with my phone beside us. The Wi-Fi, I mean, is there an impact there? Probably very minimal, but there still is an impact. These are all things we do. The creams we put on our body, the soaps we put on our things. The way I buy all, or I would say 80% of my food I buy when it comes to vegetables and fruits now are organic. But even organic is never organic, because you have an organic farm here, you have a normal farm here, the wind's blowing the pesticides anyhow across. So all my fruits and vegetables, I wash them in baking soda, let it sit there for 20-30 minutes when I buy them, and then I rinse them 5-6 times in fresh water. You still see crap come off them. So wash all your fruits and vegetables properly, not just rinse them, wash them properly. Get all as much, you're not going to get everything off, but if you could get a big percent of those pesticides off, get them off. Eat as much organic as possible. I know it's expensive, but believe me, if you're stuck and your doctor says, listen, you got 4 months of life to live, you're going to wish you spent that extra money on the organic stuff. So buy organic, look at grass fed, look at what you put in your body, eliminate processed food. Sometimes it's hard, but even if you eliminate a big percent of it, if you could eat 60, 70% clean all the time, you're making a huge difference. And your body is going to thank you for it. Physically, you're going to sleep better. You're going to look better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to enjoy life a lot better. These are all impacted things. It's just how we take care of ourselves. And once again, it's all preventative. You don't wait to be diagnosed. Do these things before you get diagnosed.
Yeah. Um, there's a lot to unpack there, but you shared just about everything that you've been going through and the changes that you made in your lifestyle. But I want to go back to when it first started and when the doctor broke the news to you, because I can, if I'm putting myself in your shoes and I'm sitting there and the doctor breaks the news to me, the immediate thing I think about is my family and the fear of what's next, the fear of how long am I actually going to live, the fear of how bad is the cancer going to impact me. How did you handle fear when the doctor first broke those words to you of cancer?
I'm going to be honest, Bryan. It's something you still deal with 8 months later.
Mm.
And anybody that says it's not going to affect you the rest of your life is full of bullshit. It's I'll go on a Instagram story and hear somebody that's died of cancer or somebody that's dying of cancer or somebody, a celebrity. It's just like, oh, like it's always in the back of your head. But I also put in my mind from day one, none of us know how long we're going to be on this earth. I could walk, I could be cancer free, walk down the street and get hit by a car and I'm gone tomorrow. So I had that mindset where if I'm going to be here for the next 6 months, before I even knew about the surgery or anything, if I'm going to be here for the next 6 months, I'm going to be here for the next 5 years, I'm going to be here for the next 20 years, I'm going to live the best life I possibly could. I'm going to enjoy as much time with my family as I possibly could. And I've always been that type. I've always been the type where you live with zero regrets and you really understand the non-negotiables in your life. You really focus on the non-negotiables, like what's important in your life. Money means shit all. Money is just a vehicle to get you by every single day and allow you to do the things and give you the freedom to do what you want when you want. But from day one, it is a struggle. I made it very, very, very clear to myself right at the beginning where I would say maybe 10, 12 people in my life knew I was going through this. And I did that for a reason. And it was because I realized if I announced it to the world, it would be hard for me to keep focused. People will be asking questions. People will be calling me. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the way I thought of dealing with it was I needed to be ultra laser focused to get through this, especially till I passed the surgery. And I did that. I announced it about, I think, 3 days after my surgery and after it was out of me. But from November 23rd till February 17, 18, or whatever, 19, when I announced it, I was just laser focused. And I knew I had to be that way. There was times, Bryan, when I'd be driving in the car by myself and I'd be like, oh my God, like if something happens to me, I'm not going to be able to see my kids do this or think, or my son would talk about, oh, I can't wait to do this. And I'm like, well, I'd be around to see him do that.
Mm.
And and I would be by myself in the car and I'd cry. And it's okay to have emotion. It's okay to feel sad at times. But at the same time, too, you have to understand where you are at that moment and understand that let's get the fuck out of this right now because this is not going to help in the process. Me being sad is not going to help in the process of healing. Having anxiety is not going to help in the process of my body's reaction to everything I'm doing positive to it. If I'm putting all this incredible food and all these incredible supplements and I'm meditating and then I'm 80% of the day high anxiety and stressed, I'm counteracting everything I'm doing. And I realized that. So I knew it's a whole holistic approach. It's mind, body, soul. I needed to be as focused as I possibly could to get to that process. And every once in a while, I'll allow myself to be sad. I'll allow myself to have a tear, but it will be just, okay, boom, a minute, 2 minutes later, deep breath, refocus. What's my goal? Control the controllables. Okay, when I'm talking about control, this is how micro I would go, Brian. It would be a situation where I would be like, okay, this week I got my radiation. Nothing else matters. Every single day. Okay, let's get the radiation done. Done one. Now my next focus, the next day, the next day. Okay, I'm done. Now let's focus. And it was constantly just control what I could control for that day. I wouldn't not even worry what's happening next week because I didn't give a shit at that point. It was what I could control every single day. And I'm be honest, I'm still somewhat doing that. I'm still working on controlling the controllables, focusing on what I can control at every single moment. Things are a little different. We're going on our first family vacation since I was diagnosed now in the next couple of days, and it's starting to open up. But at the same time, I'm controlling the controllables. We're going on a road trip, and I've literally pre-planned all my meals for 7 days. I'm filling up 2 coolers. I'm pre-planning my meals for 7 days because I am not going to break everything and the patterns and the process and the procedures, everything I've built up for the 8 months. I'm not going to break it because of the vacation. And I realize this is a lifestyle. Don't get me wrong. Like we're going to go to a couple of restaurants. I'll try to make as healthy as choices as possible at the restaurants. But at the same time too, I'm still probably 80 to 90% of the time on my trip, I will still be following the supplements, still be following the meal plan, the prep and all that stuff. Because I realize what I have to do to thrive and to be here 15, 20, 30 years from now kind of thing, right?
Yeah. You're talking a lot about the changes that you've made and the things that you've done to make your life better, make your life better to where you'll be able to walk your daughter down the aisle. You'll be able to help Tilo do the things that he wants to do, right? And you want to be there for your wife at your 50th wedding anniversary. All those things are important. But what I want to ask you as a dad, going through this, getting those words of being from your doctor saying you have cancer, since then, how has it changed you as a dad for your kids? Has it? I know you've been a great dad, Jeff. I know you're a phenomenal dad, but has there been any shift in your mindset when it comes to being a dad since that time?
I think the only shift, I mean, I've always been a very involved father.
Mm-hmm.
And have always been an open and honest, and we have a very almost a friendship relationship with my kids. It's at times I feel like I'm more their friend than their dad, but I love it. But I think I sit back and I appreciate things a little bit more. I'll see something my son does, and I'll just sit there by myself and I'll just smile with just this gleam in my. I mean, like, I'm so proud of this kid. Like, I think there's these little moments I have more frequently where it's just like, I just had this like, this great feeling, these butterflies in my stomach, this proud moments where it's like, I appreciate the little things they do now so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Like my daughter do something at school or graduate with a certain mark. I'm like, before I'm like, oh yeah, she's an honor roll student. It wasn't that, but now it's just like, God, like she's becoming such a great little young woman. She's doing her driving lessons. It's like I appreciate these little things, and I think I sit back every once in a while, and it's pretty frequent I find lately. And I was thinking about this the other day where I just sit there and I just have this smile on my face, like just like this gleam of joy, like this is like I'm so happy to be seeing this. I'm so happy to be here. I feel privileged to be here and witness all this stuff. So I think I'm appreciating these small little moments in life so much more now.
Mm. Yeah.
And I think that's the impact it had on me because when you talk about impact and doing things differently, no, I mean I for years now, I mean we worked out together every day. We go on bike rides, we go on trips. I'm always there. I could honestly tell you, Brian, in both my kids' lives, I have never, ever, and I can guarantee this, and I can pull my wife on this podcast. I've never missed an event of theirs. I've never missed a baseball game. I've never missed a dance recital. I've never missed a concert. I've never missed anything of theirs. And I could honestly say that with proud honor. Like I've done that. I've never missed any of their events. I've always been a present dad. So that aspect really hasn't changed. But I think just the appreciation and of the little things in life, especially just seeing their small little accomplishments, just makes me so happy that I'm able to be around to see it.
Yeah. That's awesome, and I kind of figured that was the response you were going to give, just knowing you and knowing being as close to you as I am. I mean, we've been friends now for shoot 3 years, something like that.
Yeah,
Really
yeah.
really close friends. So, um, let me ask you this though, when it comes to the family dynamic, I'm a firm believer, as you know, I'm a firm believer in our relationship with our spouse, and our family structure is really the foundation of a solid family. How great your family or you and your partner are together, that foundation is what really helps build the family and grow the family. So when it comes to your wife and having to sit down and talk with her, what kind of an impact did it have on your guys' relationship? Because, as you know, when you go through something as traumatic as this, it can have a real good positive impact, or it can have a real negative impact. How did it impact you guys, or did it?
Yeah, I did. It did. It was crazy, Brian. I'm going to give you two scenarios here. One for your audience. I think we talked about in your first podcast when I was on about my son. He spent first 4 months of his life at Sick Kids Hospital, and we shut off our world. It was just me and my wife. We had my daughter at that time. She was just under 2 years old. We would drop her off at daycare at 6:37 in the morning. We'd head down to Sick Kids Hospital. We'd be there till 5, 6 in the evening. Come home, pick her up, come home, quickly grab something to eat. And then I would take off with the dog and go for like an hour walk. Or like me and my wife through that whole process, because we were together all day at the hospital and we're just sitting by my son's incubator at that time, like 7, 8, 9 hours a day, whatever it was. We disconnected. We really didn't talk much. Our ultra focus and my ultra focus at that point was studying everything he was having, meetings with the doctors 2, 3 times a day, being part of the medical team in the way as much as I could to get him out of the hospital. That was my ultra goal. It wasn't my wet. It wasn't my marriage. It wasn't nothing else mattered at that point. It was getting my son home. So if anything, we actually kind of pushed apart at that process. It was weird because we were both living together but separate lives because we both had just one goal and that was all we cared about. Um, but this time around was a lot different, and it made me appreciate my wife more than ever. She never missed one appointment.
Mm.
I would be like, okay, I gotta go do the hospital and do blood work and do this, and I'm like, you're not coming today. And if I didn't allow her to come, she would drive her own car there and sit there. She never missed one single appointment out of those 33 hospital braces. She was there for every single one of them.
Mm.
And if anything, it made me appreciate her so much more. And we actually became, I would say, more close than we ever have been because of that.
Mm.
It allowed us to appreciate ourselves more. And I realized it impacted her. I mean, it like when I went into surgery, like that was probably, she says there's to her two hardest times in her life was one, when our son was born, and she goes, second was that she got home and I was dropped off in surgery at 7:30 in the morning, and she didn't get a call till one something in the afternoon, and she went home and they, because the hospital was still, it was still kind of this weird COVID kind of thing with Canada where they didn't allow no one in the waiting room still, so you had to go home and then come back. And she said that was the hardest 4 or 5 hours of her life.
Mm.
And yeah, if anything, I mean, I'd say this brought us closer because it made me appreciate her more. It made me more, if anything, I was more relaxed at home. I was more just like, I was more calm. I was more just really appreciating every moment because I didn't know what was happening, right? And even leading up to the surgery, anxiety's high. You're nervous. I've never had surgery before. You're going, and the first surgery is 5 incisions in my stomach, thinking I was gonna come out with a shit bag on me. Like,
Mhm.
it was a period, and through the whole process, it's so weird. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's almost like I felt like I had to be strong, not to allow it to impact any of my wife or my kids. So I had to be the strong one. And because of that, it forced me to be the strong one. And I appreciate that because it helped me get through things a lot easier. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you have a hard stop here in a minute, so I want to let you go. But what, if my listeners want to look you up, learn a little bit more about you, best places for them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, IG. I've been playing around with TikTok. It's everything's either under Jeff Lopes, JFF, LOPES, or Jeff Knows Inc., which is the podcast. And I answer all my messages and I reach out back to everybody. And I just want to say I appreciate your platform, Bryan. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate the platform. I appreciate everything you're doing. And thank you for letting me to share this story, because cancer is something that's going to impact everyone in one way or another. Whether it's a family, whether it's a loved one, with yourself. So be an advocate for yourself. Preventative action is probably the most important. And if you are diagnosed with something, or a loved one is diagnosed, just really take control of your body, find the root cause, because there is so much alternatives out there that you could thrive and live a long, healthy life just by taking care of yourself. So, yeah, that's all I had to say, buddy.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jeff. Thank you for our friendship. Thank you for sharing your story, your message. I really appreciate you as a friend, as a brother, as a board member, all those things. You're just a remarkable dude, and I really honor and appreciate you, my friend. So thanks for being on.
You're the best, buddy. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks again to Jeff for being on the show and sharing his journey, his story. If you have questions, if you're going through something similar, if you don't know how to handle it, reach out to him. He can help you. He can give you some resources maybe that'll help you along. But make sure you guys are checking out his podcast. Make sure you guys are checking out his social media. He's always on there, and he'd be willing to answer any questions you guys might have. So big thanks again to my good friend, Jeff. And make sure you guys are subscribing to my YouTube. If you have not yet done so, please do that so you don't miss any of the awesome guests I have on each and every week. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all on the next episode of Dad Up. Wow, another amazing episode in the books. So much was shared, and I'm truly grateful my guest was able to pour into you to help you elevate your dad game and really dad up. Make sure you bang that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. And while you're here, please don't forget to leave me a rating and a review. I always appreciate the feedback. And one last thing, don't forget, your role as a dad is one of the most important roles you have. So if you need a little help or have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website at daduptribe.com or at my Instagram page at Dad Up Podcast. Until next time, everyone, Dad Up.